This podcast was brought to you in part by the letter A.
For autism.
Today's episode.
And I'm on with the Polychromatics today, guys.
Hello.
Hello.
I know, Isaac, you hit me up about doing this a little bit ago for everything, and I was super hyped because I can finally have some really cool people on this podcast.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And I will take it away. So we'll just start over there, beginning with.
Hi, I'm Jordan. I am the singer of Polychromatics.
I am Isaac. I am one of the guitar players.
I am John. I come up with the ideas, and then other people who are better than me take those ideas to fruition.
I'm Corey. I play drums.
There you go. So, guys, this is all of them. We're going to be doing pretty much everything that we usually see on the Big Man's Cabana. I want you guys to really relax, sit back, relax, and enjoy, and we're going to kind of get into it. So, guys, I wouldn't say you're very small. I would say you're kind of getting up there, really kind of creating as much music as you possibly can. So, what would you say is the biggest struggle you guys have seen so far?
Scheduling.
Scheduling, yeah.
What do you mean?
We all live full adult lives with jobs and families and friends and responsibilities, and there is 6 of us really.
6 of us, really.
We do have a remote member in Boston, Jimmy Arvan.
Shout
good
out,
guy.
The R-Man.
So I'd say one of our biggest challenges is just all 5 of us finding the time to get together, practice every week, make it to the shows, get together to write, what have you.
Nice. So, what is your scheduling for, like, practicing? So, you guys practice here, right? And we're in...
We usually practice once a week. We'll practice down in the city at our bassist, Geesley's house.
Shout out Geesley. He's not here.
He's not
Oh,
here.
yes.
Poor guy.
He had to
Our
work today.
bassist.
Much love to the Gizman.
But yeah, the house, the Neon Jungle is a very like eclectic group of musicians. So there's always something like going on there every night.
Nice.
And they've been nice enough to let us carve out Thursday evenings, which has been relatively good for the majority of our schedules. But we're definitely looking to try to like incorporate some more Jordan time. Since it's a little bit of a hike for Jordan now.
Yeah, it's about a little bit over an hour drive. I just moved out to a different area. We used to originally practice in a state farm, actually. So we
Don't tell corporate.
Yeah, that's a fun little fact. So we were in a state farm for a really long time. Then we were kind of closer by at that point. Now that we're all adults, I mean, we're in Westchester, Philly, Drexel Hill, Souderton, border of Delaware. So we try to fit in practices when we can, but there's at least one scheduled weekly practice.
Yeah.
And that's usually what, Thursdays you guys have?
Thursdays.
Yeah,
Nice.
Like tomorrow we're going to Maryland.
Yes.
That's how random we are about it.
Jimmy is back home from Boston, and we're going to go meet in Maryland and take advantage of that.
So
Nice.
if you got a place we can practice, let us know.
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We're
no,
looking for free
I
places,
don't.
so-
The
We are in
apartment's
the
so
market.
small.
We'll come
and
hang out.
Yeah, the apartment's very small. So, listen, I would love to like have you guys on a lot more too. So when you guys are practicing, so what are you guys usually doing? Do you guys schedule like, okay, you're going to be working on just lyrics, you're going to be working on songs, you're going to be practicing when you're going to be signing on set? Do you just have like a sound day where you're just seeing what everything is going to look like? So how do your practices like get?
Primarily, we've since Corey's jumped in. How long have you been in? Like 4 months? No, longer than that.
Like 8 months.
I'm not good with time. But
Certainly not your friend.
certainly not my friend.
It goes quick.
We've been cleaning up a lot of projects and booking a lot of shows. So really, it's just been like we've been getting into practice, running through the set list, and just really trying to keep the machine as oiled as possible. One of the benefits of Jordan being as good as Jordan is that she doesn't always need to come to every practice, but it doesn't mean that she's not wanted.
I like coming to practices.
Sure, no.
That's not.
We just got some
Common
new,
misconception to vocalists.
Yeah.
They
No,
practice.
They do, and I think that it's just like I think that's more of a testament of how good of a singer you are, and you're just an amazing vocalist. So I think that people, when you're that good, just roll in whenever you want.
Yeah,
Sorry.
we've
Just
been
kidding. I was just
practicing
kidding.
together. What we've mainly been doing is working on transitions, trying to get
Yeah.
our songs to really fade one to the other to keep up that crowd engagement. But they've also been really great at having I guess, extra rehearsals, as you call it. So the more of like scheduling things and working on projects, we're doing those outside of those Thursday rehearsals. So we're always working on something throughout the week.
Yeah. There's definitely been since we've transitioned between drummers, Noah of Shid fame, to Corey, there's been just a few projects that have been outstanding. So we haven't really gone too far into the new songwriting kind of element. We're kind of just really are just kind of in a grind of get the songs down, work on the transitions, keep the set list flowing as much as possible, and then getting out.
Yeah, a bit of orchestration too.
For sure.
Tying up the ends of the songs, a lot of figuring out the little dirty deeds that needed to be.
So,
taking songs from 80 to 100.
So what do you mean, like, figuring out, like, the end of the song? So, like, when you're making songs, you have your set list, you have everything kind of going, you have what you want to put out there. So what do you mean by, like, the end of the song? Is that the hardest part of creating music?
I think Corey was touching on, like, those transitional elements, and Jordan may have mentioned it too. It's like making... We don't really like to have just a set collection of songs that are like, oh, we'll just pluck this song and have them be their own isolated islands. We're trying to make more of like a landmass of switching between songs harmonically that are either in the same key or share chords that like a song will end with one chord and the next song will start with another one. That's the same chord. Our music teacher really harped on harmonic analysis and like making things a little bit more of a cinematic, thematic, hydromatic, electrostatic sort of deal.
Yeah, take a couple songs and put them together and take the listeners through a journey more than just a quick song performance and make them feel like they're actually watching a show.
Yeah,
a little bit more of that vibe.
Once we get going, it helps a lot to not play the song, crowd gets really engaged, and then we just stop and we're like, all right, and here's the next one. It's like, not that that's the worst thing in the world, but just if we can avoid that lull, it's just one more step.
Yeah, putting ourselves in the audience's shoes and thinking of how they're going to see it and putting a little bit more work into just playing our favorite songs.
Which, like,
awesome.
From being an audience member in the DIY scene, the number one thing I realized what we work on a lot of practices was like the beginning of the song, the transitions during the different parts of the song, and the end of the song. As long as those are tight, you're pretty much golden. Because some of our stuff can get like really spacey, and we don't have like the most definitive time of when it's going to switch. We get into like some jams and stuff. So it's working on like making sure those transitions, beginnings, and endings are super tight. Because that'll make the whole thing sound like we played it exactly how we knew we were going to, even though we went into it knowing we were just going to jam and there wasn't a plan.
Yeah, definitive start to a sentence with like actual and definitive punctuation to the end of a sentence is
and
important.
My last part to that is a cool thing that I think we've started to incorporate it as a jam band, taken from some other jam bands out there, is that ability to jam and then have cues, like say everyone be on the same page for, listen to this part of the song, listen for this drum fill, listen for that guitar solo, listen for this vocal part, so that we all are on the same page and we can fluctuate with the song. If we want to jam for 5 minutes, we can, and we still know those cues are coming and we wait for them and we play it as a team. Let the play develop and kind of see what's going on, and then we can play off each other that way. And it makes the songs feel a little bit more lively than just the static, here's your 3 minute song the recording.
That makes a lot of sense.
So it's always a little different, and we're able to kind of always have that orchestrated well so that the audience doesn't know that that's our secret, but, it's kind of one of our cues and one of our keys to it. So
now, is that because you guys have a good dynamic between everyone, or is that just because you guys have figured out that philosophy, you guys have figured out that formula, or has it always been kind of like, been like surfaced? Because like I know like dynamics between like band members or just anyone in general, it helps a lot. So was that already formed, or was that just like a formula that you guys found together?
I probably forced the issue early on in terms of like wanting the sets to be very conceptual and thematic.
It comes from our influences, like Pink Floyd. If you watch Pink Floyd live at Pompeii, that's like a great example.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Or even just the journey that, it doesn't go much more. It doesn't go much deeper than me sitting in a basement listening to Pink Floyd and watching Wizard of Oz and being like, oh, you can do this. You can do more with music than just, just
What theory tells you?
Yeah, what theory tells you and what but
little packets of information almost. It can be
Yeah.
like a one harmonious.
Yeah, a
piece.
holistic experience as opposed to these and there's nothing against the 1, 2, 3, 4 and then just like blast out like a punk song, like that's really badass.
Now 1, 2, 3, 4, like for someone who's an idiot who doesn't so like is it just like 1, 2, 3, 4 you just go, or
Just
is
like
it,
a count in, like
Oh,
It's,
okay.
it's like a
Fuck.
cue
1, 2, 3.
basically. So you're counting in 4 beats and then you would start playing.
Yeah.
So I think what
Okay.
John is touching upon is trying to make it more of like an overall experience.
Sure,
So
yeah.
over time, certainly when we were first starting out, it was not like this. But I think because our relationship has gotten stronger and we are older, we've been able to plan certain cues that you might not physically hear us say, like go. We're not saying go, but you might hear some sort of melody being played. John will play something, for example,
A lot of drum cues from Corey.
Yeah, a lot of good
Yeah.
telegraph drum cues, yeah.
and then we hear those, and that's our cue to one another to like, all right, now we're jumping into this next section. So
So are you guys jumping from song to song? And I know you were saying earlier, like the jokes you would be saying to kind of like get into your
My cringe jokes
your
to make the
cringe
audience hate
jokes.
me.
So are you doing them
Refer back
between
to
your
the
songs,
Steve.
or are you doing those to start out the whole kind of set, or are you just like fill in the air, or how I don't want to
That's
like
like a
divulge
fill
your
in the air
secrets.
thing. There's like sometimes there's unavoidable laws, like you got to
Tunings.
tune your instrument.
Yeah.
You definitely want to be in tune. So sometimes you got to take a second tune. That's when Jordan, the consummate professional, will usually immediately get right to work, just
Audience engagement,
talking
yeah.
to the audience. So we're not just standing around like a bunch of dipsticks.
Yeah, and it's not
Yeah.
it's not so nuts and bolts that it's like we do that because it's a requirement. I think that we genuinely do want to we want it to be we're not to the point where we're
In a
But-
stadium, and I can't see a single face. We're playing
we're not
small venues.
playing
we're
at
playing
you.
in basements.
Yeah, we
we're
can
like
interact.
3 feet
Yeah,
away from
yeah.
the people, so it's like we're just hanging
You may
out
as well
with them,
talk to
really.
them, yeah.
No, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. So do you? I'm assuming, like knowing you, Isaac, and getting to know you guys. Would you say that that's more of your style now, to like being that close to people, or would you want to like? Would you guys be comfortable enough to like do it in front of like a massive amount of people?
both.
Definitely want to do it in front of a massive
Yeah,
amount of
definitely.
people.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
would be pretty cool.
I think that
Very happy doing it the way we are now, but
Right.
Yeah, you got to pay your dues.
I wouldn't complain playing in a stadium.
Yeah, and it's a
I-
blast having people right in your face. I mean, it feels very intimate, but
Oh, yeah.
going back to things like practice, whether or not we're playing in a street or we're playing in an actual club, we do those things that feel natural like a band. Hey, this next song we've got a music video for, check it out.
Yeah.
Go
Oh,
into
nice.
it. The
Applause, yeah.
song after that while they're tuning, hey, we've got merch, go check it out. Thanks to the bands that are playing, thanks to the venue. Check it out,
so
and
you
it feels
guys-
very inviting to the audience. that way.
Oh, that's awesome. So during like your sets, like you guys are always tuning. So is that like you're going like to drop D, or you were just okay?
mhm.
I
Yeah, yeah.
understand.
Yeah.
I understand.
So like we'll try to if I had my druthers, it would be kind of a mixed bag of really intimate shows, larger shows, and I would really like to get into some more like theatrical performances where we play at like a theater like Hedgerow, or we
That'd be
play
awesome. That'd be really cool.
because
Brooklyn Bowl.
Brooklyn
That's a
Bowl,
cool
yeah.
one. Yeah,
Hell yeah,
I
that'd be
wouldn't mind
awesome. But
There's like a burlesque themed bar in the city that I want to.
that. That'd be
I
cool.
know some. I lived with a dance major, Julia, for a little bit, and either her or her friends or whoever's crazy enough to jump on board would love to do a whole choreographed set with dancers.
yeah, it'd
That'd
be
be cool.
awesome.
One day.
Yeah,
that
that'd
would
be
be
sick.
quite a spectacle.
There's something really alluring about that idea of creating an auditory experience and a visual experience together. So like when we played Philomoka last year, we're seriously one of the unsung heroes of the organization who's not with us right now is my buddy Colin Lee, who does all of the artwork, and he's a real powerhouse when it comes to visuals.
Help shoot the music video
Yeah,
that we
help shoot
got
the music
coming
video,
soon.
yeah.
Sorry, we'll talk about that later. But yeah, he
And,
helps with everything.
But like that combination of the visual aspect of it comes into play when we are able to put a backdrop on behind us. So there's not only we don't only just play music, we also want to bring an experience of some sort of visual psychedelic element to it. which is like more proggy than it is psych, but I think that we did it at Philomoka last year for the Psych Expo, and we'll likely do it for the next Psych Expo that's coming up in February. So having those things where you're like listening to the music, that's washing over you, and then you're able to watch something that is in tandem, complementary, contrasting to what's happening, allows the audience member to really make their own connections and make their own, just get something out of it that somebody else might get something completely different out of it.
No, that's awesome. That's really cool. And I think like a lot of people like me who are very visual, I love music, right? But when you add that kind of element, it definitely, people that are going to come to your show, they're going to talk about, oh my gosh, look at these amazing dancers, look at all this kind of stuff. But they work so well. Like, okay, look at just musicals, right? You have the music, you have all this kind of stuff. Not even just like anything about it, just like look at something like Annie, right?
Yeah.
Everyone always talks about like the hard knock life, but like you visualize this small little redhead girl running around singing a song. Yeah. And I think that's awesome because you guys all seem really cool, and it seems like you guys really love this music, and just adding another element to that. And I think you guys, and listening to your music, you guys sound like you put a lot of effort into it. So I can't imagine that you have a visual aspect that's going to be subpar. You know what I'm saying?
Well, that's the hope. It's like we want everything to work as synergy is such a stupid buzzword, but it does work for like what the intention of the word actually is. It's like where the sum of the parts is equal to the whole is more than the sum of its parts. You know what I mean?
Okay, I understand.
So it's like there's this idea that once all those things do come together, there's this other intangible asset that's like, oh, I can inject as much of my own personal emotion into this as an audience member, that we may or may not be consciously or that we may or may not be consciously injecting ourselves. So
okay, sure, yeah.
We try to make it as much of a personal experience to the audience as we possibly can. So.
Sure, yeah. Now, is this like a good release for you guys too? With like
absolutely.
Yeah. We like I had mentioned earlier, we're definitely in a transitional period where we're trying to clean up as many projects as we can to get them out for release, because there was a big writing block that happened prior to Corey jumping in, and Corey jumping in has been a godsend just from his own technical prowess and getting us from conceptual, which I feel like is where I kind of live, to something more concrete, which is more Corey's bag.
Where I live.
Yeah. Now, talk to me about the whole writer's block, because that was one thing that I always heard. I always understood, but I never understood. So for me, right? If I'm looking for like a topic, or I'm trying to write, or like let's say it's even like a paper for school, right? I have that. Okay, I don't know what I'm going to write. I don't know what to say in the next sentence, but I can find myself getting out of that pretty easily. Now I imagine it's harder in music. So like I guess what I'm asking is, what is that? And I guess how do you guys find yourselves getting out of that?
I have no control over it. I have literally, and I don't know I think I've heard a lot of people say, if you're in a creation rut, go and experience other media. So like if I'm gonna out myself pretty hard here, but if I'm having writer's block for Dungeons and Dragons, I'm a dungeon master.
Nice, yeah.
And like I'm like, oh man, like how do I want this story to where do I want this story to go next? And I can't rely on the players' reaction to events, and you always can. That's the beauty of D&D.
I have so many questions now. I have so many questions.
Side
now.
podcast
awesome.
now. Yeah.
Side podcast here for 3 hours. Yeah.
But what I'll do is I'll go and I'll consume other media. I'll watch The Lord of the Rings again, and I'll be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get super jazzed over The Lord of the Rings, or dive into the Silmarillion, or read up on Carl Jung's The Red Book and hypnagogic stuff, and what else? I don't know, just things that I'm interested in, and if I can get those juices flowing. So similarly, I'm back on a big Pink Floyd kick again, which ebbs and flows every 4 weeks. No, like 6 to 8 months, I'll like go back and I'll like try to pick apart those songs, which I feel like helps me. But outside of like trying to pull the cord on the lawnmower, I don't have any control over it.
Okay, yeah.
Unfortunately.
That was, go ahead, sorry.
Oh no, you're good. Well, I think the writing block you were talking about was when we were going through like a transitional period as a band too.
Yeah.
So it wasn't quite that we didn't have material. It was just trying to get that material out
Yeah, 100%.
necessarily
Yes.
and work on it as a group.
God, you're so smart.
What do you mean? What do you mean get the material out? Are you saying like as like an EP?
Like
or are you
production.
saying, oh,
Yes,
yeah,
production
Just getting it
wise. So
written
that
down,
was
yeah.
where the block was, is how do we want to approach that?
Okay.
And oftentimes, and this works with writing music too, you just switch your thinking, take a different approach.
Yeah.
So in this case, we kind of went about it in a different team, in a different direction that we usually do. And I think that's how that got resolved that way.
We did a lot more. We did a lot more breakout teams.
Yeah.
So like, it would, Corey's been getting us up the curve on demos. Like I'll be the first to admit that I'm like really bad at like personal production. Like I'll do like voice memos on my phone.
Sure.
And like
yeah.
that's as far as I really go. But Corey's been zhuzhing us in the direction of being like, okay, well, there's a pretty easy way to get your completed idea onto a DAW, and it's really what I need. I've really learned by osmosis. So having Corey involved in kind of like pushing us in that direction has been super helpful.
Well, and just to piggyback on that, because I think Jordan has a good point, and I know she's kind of worked on this as a student, is that I think a lot of writer's block is just two things. It's either burnout of you just being too busy and trying too many things at once, and now you're just indecisive entirely, or it's that you're not confident in the idea that you're trying to put down and you're overthinking it a little bit.
Okay.
It's one of those two things that is kind of like putting up a barrier from you stopping it, because you have good ideas. You can put any idea down. There's plenty of artists out there that write music that's mediocre music, but people love it just because it's mediocre and it's decent and it connects with them. Take a Taylor Swift, or actually a lot of pop artists. They just put out music, tons of it. And some songs you think there could be a better melody for this song, sure. But she didn't overthink it. She had an album to put out. So if you can workshop the songs and workshop yourself, out of that hole. And I think the reason I say Jordan has that connection is because we talk about the way she used to analyze songs in school. And that's kind of what it starts to do, is you take like a song that you're inspired by, like a Pink Floyd song, you start to bring it, into verses and choruses, into what the melodies are, and start looking at a song and breaking it down musically. And then that'll start making your music seem a little bit more accessible, because you'll start putting it together the same way. And it makes it a little easier to put it together and rip through that. And it's something you can kind of break through. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And the beauty of I'm very thankful for our writing process, because it is more predicated on listening to each other. Isaac put it really succinctly in another interview from our buddies at Plays, where you mentioned the idea of like listening to people when they're not necessarily doing anything like majorly important. Like it's just like, I might be like chugging on a riff, and then you might be like, oh, okay, that's the idea that we're going for. What can I do to supplement or augment? And then, it's really much more organic than sitting down and like being like, okay, well, this is the song. It's verse, chorus, bridge, verse, chorus. It's like we don't really do anything. We don't really do anything too structured or by the books. It's more like we did this for 4 times because we practiced it that way, and then Jordan will come in and be like, oh, I'm going to sing over these parts. There's a really cool section of In Caroleo, one of the songs that will be out on the next EP, that we've been performing live, where we start the riff, then everyone kind of jumps in, and Jordan kind of comes into the verse structure late, from like if you were to write all this stuff down, and it works really well, because the lineup of the lyrics ends on the breakdown. So there's this, when you did it the first time, when we like actually practiced it, I was like, oh, well, that's it. Like that's the structure, because it just felt natural, and it kind of came about naturally. So yeah, we do try to like just listen to each other, and really try to just bounce off of the rails, as it were.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, I know I've noticed. Have all of you been in like school for like music?
No.
No.
Private
even
lessons,
a little
but
bit.
No school.
Yes.
No.
Okay,
Yeah.
so most of you guys are, would you say self-taught, or do you have like some kind of coach or?
A private teacher, but
Private
yeah.
teacher.
Yeah,
My dad
private
taught me.
teacher. Yeah,
Oh yeah.
I took
Pri-
a
private
private
teacher.
That's how
lesson.
big
yeah,
it is.
you're a private teacher.
Your
Dave.
dad's pretty good. Private teacher.
Now, let me ask you then. I've listened to music. I know Shirley split all the time. You guys are awesome. Now, my question is, do you think that someone out there who's like, I'm going to take lessons, I'm going to go to school for this, I'm gonna do all this stuff, do you think it's worth it?
Do it. Get your reps
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I'm decisive because we talked about YouTube before this.
Yes,
I think it depends
yes.
on the kind of person
Yeah.
you are, however, or what you're trying to do. But take Jordan, for example. As a vocal instructor, that's something I think that it really values. Now, I think
Okay.
if you're trying to just learn an instrument, play rock music, and just go for it, and that's your dream to do, like play
Yeah.
on big stages and
Yeah.
stuff, I think you can put a lot more time into jamming out in your garage and listening to the stuff you want to do and do it yourself and learn from things on YouTube and save a lot of money
You can
and
do
put
that.
money
Yeah.
into your gear and into travel and into your living situation. As a young person, I think it's very important because that's kind of what companies look for as you grow. You know, they look for, hey, we want to sponsor you, but can you buy our cymbals? Can you represent us? Can you do those things? We want to see you go out and play, 100 shows a year. Can you do that? You
Yeah,
know?
yeah. Conversely,
And that is something that takes time and a lot of dedication to get to.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, because that was not the response I thought I was gonna get. To be honest, I really thought it was gonna be like, no, you don't need that.
It definitely depends on what
Yeah,
you're trying
it
to
depends.
do. I'd say
What
for the
field of
most
music,
part-
yeah.
Yeah.
For the most part, you're definitely going to want to learn a thing or two.
but if you're
Where
going
you're
for performance at the level that Jordan has performed at, like
Yeah, exactly.
If you're
can't-
studying opera, yes.
Yeah, you
Exactly.
You should
Exactly.
be going to a conservatory
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
school.
You wanna be a
majority of the
classical
time you're gonna
pianist,
want
something like
lessons.
that. Yeah.
There's like a couple of nuanced things. I don't know if you should necessarily start out of the gate with lessons either. I think
Yeah, I think-
the YouTube avenue is a great place to get your feet wet and then kind of jump into the lessons, because I've heard from some people the lessons can also be intimidating and a bit of a deterrent.
yeah,
It can be.
A teacher can make or break it. I mean, I'll
Yeah.
give it
I would
that.
say that's
Totally.
for a lot of things.
We've
sure,
talked
yeah,
about
I
that.
mean,
absolutely.
as a teacher, I've had some bad teachers, and I know, like, oh, I wouldn't want to pick up the guitar again if somebody said that
Yeah.
to me.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
But there is benefit to getting professional learning. So I think starting, like what you said, at YouTube, at that avenue, see if you're interested, and then it's just like any other sport. You're
Yeah.
going to
Well-
start at a club sport before you join a professional
and that's the
team.
thing. I think it's
Yeah.
like athletics. If you think about it, there's a yin and yang, because it's great to go on a team sport because you learn all of the team sport aspects. You learn to listen to your coach. You learn to do what they say is good and see everything develop and why the things work. On the other side, I think it's better to learn to skateboard by yourself because that is a completely independent sport.
Sure,
and you have to fall down and get back up. No one's going to do
Interesting.
that and show
Yeah.
you. They can show you how to kickflip 100 times. But you actually have to go and do it yourself.
Yeah.
So you can learn all that by yourself, and I think it actually develops a better self-discipline for you to conquer those borders or those plateaus that you can't break through. Like a musician, as you get older and you don't have a teacher, and you're still going to hit plateaus
Yeah.
every few years of wanting to get better, and that's going to be on you.
Yeah, there's a wild concept about that in psychology. You actually become a better learner if you are the teacher.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Oh, yeah,
saying?
yeah,
definitely.
So
Yeah.
that was a big thing for me. Like I had to teach myself how to do all this, and I'm
Exactly.
still an idiot. But like I still
that's where you want to live,
Up to
though.
debate,
That's
up
the
for debate.
humbleness. I love
Yeah.
that.
But yeah,
The more
no,
you know,
it's
the less you
it's.
know.
But like I think
Don't
you guys
encourage
have also
it.
seen too is like you guys are still teaching yourselves. Like
Yeah.
I think you guys are each teaching each other, which I'm kind of gaining from all this. So I think that's definitely been. It seems beneficial for you guys, and that's one
Truly.
thing that I always learned was like if I'm teaching for Springboard, for instance, when I'm teaching like a third grader, I might even learn how 2 + 2 actually equals 4. Not just, you know what I'm saying?
Sure.
So-
Oh no,
exactly.
totally.
Yeah, yeah.
You-
and
you-
that is an interesting concept.
You and to be contrarian, I will say that I think that there are, from my personal experience and my temperament, it's like I actually do need to go to the gym and have the personal trainer babysit me. So sometimes I might not have the self-discipline to like, oh, I'm gonna like work on piano tonight. I'm like, well, I could play Zelda. Like there's a
Well, but the cool
there's
part of
always
that is there's a trainer on the other side
Yeah,
who
oh,
is
yeah,
that
yeah.
other person,
Yes,
and you're
yes,
your
yes, yes.
person, and that's what makes everything kind of go
Symbiotic,
around.
yeah.
Same reason we're on the stage and there's fans in the
Oh,
room.
yeah.
You always got to see the yin and yang of it, at least in those situations.
Yeah, it really is like everything else in life where there's no one answer. It's multifaceted. It's nuanced.
exactly.
It has to be it has to be
It's unique to the person.
unique to the person,
Yeah.
personalized. Yeah, it's a
Be yourself.
be yourself.
It can't hurt
Unless
to
you're
try
weird.
lessons though. So if
No,
if
definitely.
anyone's
yeah.
out there and
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
like,
Definitely.
does that mean I
advocating
should
lessons.
just go on YouTube? No, if you want to be a musician and you really are curious about the theory of it, the performance of it, go take some lessons. Try
Corey
it out
always
for a
says,
month,
just
you know?
try it. Like I feel like that's
Definitely.
I feel like that's a good mentality that we bring to the table, where it's like no one's advising you to do anything.
Do what you'd like.
Do what you'd like,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
but
I
also
loved lessons.
like stretch yourself a little bit.
George is the one.
Yeah.
I was a very
and in
lucky-
your opinion, or to back you up though,
Yeah.
I think that's the important thing. You learn the basics, especially the rudiments of music, through people who have done it, and you trust them, and then they set you on your way essentially, and you kind of go on your journey.
And it
you
helped me
decide
make
how far you wanna take
connections,
it.
honestly, because John was at the same lesson place as I was.
Yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
And
exactly.
that's how we
There's
met
always
each other.
a lot
So
of pros to it,
you
yeah.
never know who you'll run into or what opportunities you could get.
Yeah.
Our lesson teacher
And-
actually gave
yeah.
us thousands of opportunities.
And
Every-
isn't School of Rock a big thing around here?
School of Rock
That's
is
Yeah,
a
it's a
giant
great
Oh,
movie.
wow.
It's
Yeah.
fantastic,
So-
fantastic movie.
Yeah.
Jack Black is amazing.
Like that's a cool concept because I didn't have that where I was from, so it's really
Yeah, it is.
interesting to
It's
hear
big.
about all
Yeah.
that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that there's a lot of people that like our friends, our bassist Geesley and Noah. I think they did like an after school like band thing in high school, which I think got a lot of people together up in that like kind of like Pottstown area. So I don't think that we have as much of like I definitely didn't have it at my high school. There was like
It's coming up now. That I just went. I'm a nerd. I went to a PMEA conference recently.
Nice.
Modern Band is coming to your schools. It's where they're giving middle schoolers and high schoolers the opportunity to pick an instrument of their choice and start a band.
that's
Nice.
awesome.
That's
Yeah,
cool.
that's
And
dope.
That's
they
cool.
tour. They go to
What took
different
'em so long?
places.
Be the youth.
It's so cool. So
Give me
instead of regular
knowledge.
band, now you have modern band. You can do both.
Yeah,
So there's
I-
different avenues to explore,
Yeah.
which is awesome nowadays.
And I don't know. I definitely I didn't start playing music until I was like really like 17 or 18. So I felt like I was pretty late to the curve to most people who are. You were staring at me something fierce there. No, I felt like I was pretty late to the curve, and I don't know if I would have even have taken that initiative. The theme is that I'm lazy. That's the theme. The theme.
need
I don't
someone to
know.
push you. That's
I don't know
fine.
if
Yeah,
you've ever had a
exactly.
takeaway,
Yeah.
but that's the takeaway. I'm a lazy person.
See, I don't know if that would be considered lazy. I think it's just, maybe it's just you just need that extra push.
Yeah.
'Cause
Okay.
that is one thing
normal,
I
yeah.
found with people is like, especially when they're in the gym, especially with me, it's like they're not lazy. They're not there. They don't go in. They don't not go in because they're lazy. They just need that extra like push. They need to like see what it's like, understand the whole aspect of it. So now, would you guys say that you push each other? Is that why you guys
Oh,
are
yeah.
so successful?
Yes.
With
Yeah,
everything?
yeah. I was gonna say the best vocal lesson I ever got is just watching Jordan. There's a sense like I remember I remember just the feeling of starting out and writing music, and you can go back and listen to those early demos. They're garbage, but like the idea of like my I didn't have a vocal style. I just had people that I wanted to emulate, and I think that just watching Jordan and really just being exposed to everybody, because you have to engage your brain when you're playing music, and you have to engage your brain with most things, but you work out all things. You have to engage your brain. That's the moral of the story.
Debatable.
You're
But
supposed to do that.
yeah, well, shit, I should start doing that. But it's the idea of like, you work out. It's like I see it as like a stat array in like an RPG, and then you're like, all right, well, I'm gonna like work out all of them. I'm gonna like do a really high peak in music, and I think that the more you do it, and the more you like hear other people who are really good, the better you become. So yeah, I mean, Corey, the best drummer I've ever seen. Isaac is like he's really handsome, so he's got that going for him.
Very true.
And-
100%.
No,
But
Isaac.
yeah, no, just working with these very talented musicians. I joined the band in like 2018, 2019-ish.
Yeah.
And I knew like a thing. I didn't know a thing or two about playing guitar. And John is really good at guitar and keeps getting better. And Geesley is a phenomenal bass player.
You
keeps
actually
getting better.
you taught me the pentatonic scale.
Hell
Really?
yeah!
Remember-
Hell yeah!
I remember.
That's all you need,
Lessons.
baby.
Yep.
Lessons.
I remember it was not to cut you off, but it was about I think I've been in the for like 6 months. It was when Gio and I brought our guitars
Yeah.
down.
Yeah.
And I was pretty proficient, but I was nowhere near obviously you guys. So you're like, Matt, listen, I love you. But learn the fucking pentatonic scale. I was like, okay, so you show me how to do some of it, and then
It's the key to jamming. Once you
Dude,
get that down,
You're
you
good.
start ripping around.
I never understood. Like, I always heard about it, like if it was on like Instagram or whatever it was, and then I'm like, learning it, and I'm like, what is going on? Like, this is so cool, and I'm just sitting there playing. And then, like, my buddies on Discord, they're like, yo, shut up, dude. I can't keep and I was like, dude, you just can't. Because it was wild because it actually renewed my love for guitar.
Nice.
Because I grew up with, like, piano. And Matt has to go play guitar lessons. You have to do an instrument. Like, I played trombone in high school.
Nice.
Hell yeah.
But
Get you on a record.
Yeah, get you on trombone.
listen, the football ended up
Stand
taking over
out.
that. But no, dude, that was one of the coolest things I actually remember, like, learning. And you were the one that showed me that because you told me that. I don't think you remember this. But you told me to do that. I went, all right, fuck it. I'll hear him out. I know he's good at this. And then I did, and I'm like, damn it, fuck, he was right.
It's a lot of fun,
So,
isn't it?
yeah, it was
a lot of
cool.
fun.
I was getting tired of playing lead. I was like, I want to play chords for a while. You learn the friggin' scales, dude.
Well, I was even before Isaac jumped in. I was going to compliment you, not just about your handsomeness, but I was going to say that you and I have a really special connection in that we're playing the same instrument. So we have to be creative in how we're going to go through songs together.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really special
And I think
relationship.
it comes too from like we've both developed our skills over time in the past
Truly.
like 5 years since we started.
Oh God, yeah.
So we've both gotten better, but like when I joined, I was like, and I'm sure that this wasn't necessarily true in the grand scheme, but in my mind, I was like trying to validate my presence in the band because everyone was so talented. Like Jordan, John, Geesley, Jimmy at the time was our drummer. And I was like, oh my God, these guys can really friggin' play. I better get my shit together, you know? And so I think like really starting to take my learning seriously at the same time as playing with the band definitely like shaped the direction I took learning. But as far as pushing each other, absolutely. Just being in the presence of really good musicians has definitely made me a much better guitar player.
Yeah, I love that when it comes in organic ways where I think it's most crystallized for me when we would be recording vocals. We only ever get to do it when we're doing a project. But in those moments I'm like, all right, well, Jordan's the boss when it comes to vocals. Like I can't let my I kind of wanted to sing it like this. It's like no. You need to have a more supported breath. And I'm like, well, what's that? I don't even know what that is. And then you'd explain that to me, and then you'd be like, okay, now I see the merit of needing that. And then in those instances where you kind of have to get it right, you don't really have a choice. I don't know. It bubbles to the top. You know what I mean?
To play opposite, they're all being very sweet because they are all, amazing, talented, and that's why I've stayed in this for so long. I mean, it's been like 6 years because I love being with these people. But to play opposite to John, and I've come from a background of family musicians, lessons, school, all that. Talking about the supported breath, everything was very, this is the way it's supposed to be. This is what I know. And in the beginning, there used to be a little bit of pushback because, John...
I'm stupid.
No, John sees, here's the box. John is outside of the box. So a lot of times I'd be like, get inside. That is where I'm at. This is what we're supposed to do.
Oh, yeah.
So they've pushed me to start thinking of music in more of a creative way, to just use it as an outlet at times, So that's what their push has been, is to take it outside of what I know. It doesn't have to be so structured.
We're
which has
corrupting
been
her.
really cool.
We're
Corruption.
corrupting her.
No,
and
it's
small note from me on all this because I just joined the band the most recently. I moved here a couple years ago. I wasn't doing anything, so when I got to meet them, I've always had this motto that I kind of live by. That is, if anybody out there is living your dream, they have not worked less than you to achieve it.
Yeah.
And
No
so
doubt.
that's something I just live by, to where I'm like, that's kind of a motivating thing to just be like, dude, anybody that you like, if you want to achieve
Good one.
anything,
Yeah.
there's always people out
he's
there
good.
that
He's
everybody
good.
you're looking at. They didn't just get lucky. They didn't just one day wake up and learn how to play guitar out of nowhere. It's not the Matrix. They don't just, it doesn't just get uploaded.
I know
into your
Kung
system.
Fu.
So when I kind of got to jam with these guys, I realized that they all had all those things that I was looking for in a band, because you're always looking for people who you mesh with. And so I think part of being a mature musician is finding out Those people where you see the work ethic on just a full level, not just, oh, they're a good guitar player. Yeah, they great guitar player, but they might be a total piece of shit person. Or sorry, I don't know if I'd cuss, but one of those things where it's one of those people
Yeah, I'm a
that,
piece of shit.
or somebody who's just always going to be flaky or something, and you're like, I'm doing a lot of work here, or I'm trying to make this, trying to elevate you, and you're resisting that.
Yeah.
You want to be around people who are going to do the same as you, and these guys just immediately, I felt like I'd known them, my whole life. So it just worked that way. And I think that was something I was looking for. And I think that's something, that takes us all to that next level every single time we play a show. We're always challenging each other, looking for that, hey, let's get more energy. Let's do this song. Let's switch the set list up. Let's do things that are always changing us and keeping us out of our comfort zones. So.
Sure.
And Corey himself has been a great motivator since he joined the band. I think he had a lot of knowledge as far as, well, first of all, he has a lot of technical skill as a drummer. He absolutely shreds. But like he's been around the block a couple of times. He had a lot of knowledge as far as like what to do during a live show that we hadn't started doing yet. He had a lot of knowledge with like recording in a more professional sounding setting and stuff like that. So when he joined, he's been a great motivator to get a couple last pieces that I feel like we were aware of but didn't quite know how to get there or anything like that, and then he joined and was like, I know all that stuff. So he's been
it can be as little as we've started incorporating lights. I have these production lights that I use for film projects, and I said, why don't we just take these to shows because they have RGB.
They're dope.
They're awesome. So why not use them?
Using them right now.
We do them.
Every time Jordan talks, I like look over and then I'm like,
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, but see that same thing. We want, maybe not just a super bright white light, but we put the colors on, and it's like a tractor beam for the audience. They can't look away, and it adds to the show. So, taking it that 100% instead of
there you go again. You have that visual aspect. You guys
There it is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Dude, if you
Make
guys
it
put the
polychromatic.
dancers down, that's gonna be really cool.
Get some
hopefully,
dancers.
fingers crossed
Yeah,
someday.
yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah.
So let me ask you a question. You talked about having people that flake, all these people that you trust that push you. Now, the Navy SEALs do this thing where I forget the gentleman that talked about it, but there's a chart.
Dick
where,
Marchenko?
I think so.
Was it Eric Crichtons?
Jocko Willings.
Was it Chaka?
This is just saying names. I'm so lost. Just for the part where I said I was a raging idiot. But so there's like a chart, and I'll put it up for all you guys on YouTube. It's people you trust, and then how much you trust them, and then their like work ethic or like how skilled they are, right? And you were talking about this person might be a great guitarist, but they might not be the greatest person. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And what they found is they actually, and it's like a graph, right? And they found that the person with the lowest skill you can still teach, but they trust the most.
Yeah.
They actually found that they actually trust that person more with their lives in a combat situation than they do with the person who is
True.
the most trained.
Yeah.
Then that you can't trust at all.
It
And it was interesting you said that because it made me think. I'm like, wow, like in really any aspect of the game, because like in strongman we have the same thing. If you're my training partner, right, and you're supposed to show up, we're supposed to do stones,
Yeah.
and you don't show up, now I don't have
Fuck.
the energy. Yeah,
Totally.
exactly. So that's interesting that it still happens. Not that I didn't think it didn't happen, but that is interesting how it translates like that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Any
There's
team.
Any
really.
team. It's so funny. There's always like these break the glass moments or or whatever the expression is, turn of phrase, where it's like anything where you're trying to get a group of people together to create a product or create an end goal there has to be some level. I don't know if it's a majority, but I do think that it is a large portion of it. Maybe that's a majority. But
That isn't
51%. It's only 51%. Where you need to have that trust where it's like my background is project management for construction, and I don't have the technical knowledge to put to plumb a house. I don't have the technical knowledge to run electric in a house by myself, but I do have people that I trust that do have those technical things, and I just have to ask the questions to be able to get the best product out of them and for the client. So it's like like Isaac said it's anything that has a team. So it's like all of these skills or perceptions are pretty transferable throughout any industry.
Yeah.
So
So I'm just gonna ask because I just didn't know. what is your favorite venue, best place you played? But no, listen, I want to talk about let's do vibe first, right? Because from what I've been hearing from performers and like comedy sets, there's like a vibe, right? You walk in, you get a vibe, and sometimes they will choose the vibe over the venue. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
totally.
It might be
Absolutely.
the biggest venue they ever played, but the vibe was just off, right? So we'll do the vibe first, and we'll just say like the biggest or like the best production.
So I felt like for vibe, I had a really, and I feel like it's. I'm gonna gear my answer towards the most fun that I had. I had the most fun at the Holiday this year. And you can see it in my face when I walk out into the crowd and I start poking people with my guitar.
That was a great night.
I just had a lot of fun, yeah. And it was like, and it's a small basement. It just was a tiny place, but I get a lot of energy from being right up with the crowd. In terms of venue, we played Philomoka last year, and that was fucking awesome. That was the coolest. Like
Philomoka had great sound, great production. Everyone working at Philomoka was very professional.
And
Knew what they were doing.
I was totally like, that Corey has put it to me. You and I have so many conversations, sir. Many conversations. More to come. Corey said to me one time, he's like, you experience a venue as an audience member, and then you get to play there. And then you like check that box off and you're like, okay, well, wow, I made it to this milestone. Well, I can go to the next milestone. Like clearly I just did the thing that I wanted to do for however many years. I saw Wand and Spirit of the Beehive at Philomoka however many years ago. And I just was like, one, I love Wand, but two, I was like, wow, this is a really intense stage and a really cool room. And it was like, I was like, oh, I'll play. I will play here. I was like, I made it a goal that night. I was like, I'll play here.
So is that not to cut you off, but
no,
is that a surreal experience for you, for someone who now is playing there? Is it wild to just like be in the back of the stage? I don't know if you guys call it green room there, but is it wild being in that situation where you are up next, you are playing where you listened? Is that weird for you, or is that exciting? Is it nerve-wracking?
No, definitely exciting.
It's definitely exciting.
Absolutely exciting.
For that night in particular, Megan Pulver, gotta give love to Megan Pulver, who really didn't help, really put on the show. I just acted as some support for that Psych Expo. Like I was kind of like running the event and emceeing it at the time, so I wasn't like playing Wells Fargo and you're in the green room and someone's, you're talking with James Hetfield and he's like, we're about to have a great show, brother. Yeah. Not yet. So it was more of like, I kind of felt like I was at work, which isn't a great thing to think about, but to me that actually means that I was like in the headspace to do it. So I was like ready to get something done. So,
and not to talk too much about my background, but these guys know. I've been playing and touring for like 10-ish, 11-ish years. So I've played all over the country. I've done like tours in Canada and stuff. So probably like the coolest place, for example, the most history I've ever played is like the Whiskey A Go-Go in LA.
Hell yeah.
To go up in there and be like that exact feeling of like, wow, like I'm looking at, posters where like,
Like
Motley
Doors were
Crue
here.
have signed these things from 40 years ago when they were like nothing, and start to talk to people who remember those shows and work there. And you're like, damn, that's kind of cool. Or, fast forward a few years later from that, in a new band, I played, like 45 days on Warped Tour. We did split it with another band on that. So it's like you're around these other bands that are just really doing it and putting it out there. But you start to kind of check those things off the list, like John was saying, but it's not really, there's always those plateaus, but they're few and far between. Like you said, they're milestones. So it's almost just fun to start to see what's going on just in the world, whether or not, like the other day, we played literally on a stoop. And it's a blast.
Yeah, it was
awesome.
awesome.
Like fun just because people are there. You start to be like, it's about the show and the performance and exactly about that vibe, and it's not really always about the history, even though, yeah, you look forward to those shows, but you might be, like I've done tours that are 60 days, all over the country, and it's like a lot of these venues are just the exact same thing like you would see in Philly or house shows, but you're kind of checking them off the list. That way, someday, 10 years from now, you may go through there again, and that place doesn't exist, and that actually happens a lot now that I've played a bunch of places in Philly that aren't here anymore, and it's kind of interesting.
Often? like often you'll see like venues just not.
I guess smaller ones, maybe not that often, but I've
Just
definitely
like clubs and bars, they can
Did
come
Boot
and
and
go.
Saddle
yeah,
come
so
back?
is-
like
is
5
that
years
like,
seems to
yeah.
be the lifespan of some.
Really?
Maybe not all, but especially when there's a
That's-
big saturated
So-
market like a city.
Yeah, some of them
Interesting.
are they're like some of them feel like staples, but I'm trying to think of the ones that have sort of just are either trying to get CPR to come back. Like I can't
Well, like
remember.
Grape Room's kind of coming up out here, and like
There's
from what I've
social-
heard,
There's been a
you know.
couple. There's been a couple of iterations of the Grape Room. Like Scott's played like
It
the
used
first,
to be like Grape Street Bar or something.
yeah,
right?
Grape Street Pub or something, and like our music teacher
It's like
Scott.
Kyber Pass too, all those years.
Kyber
ago.
Yeah,
Pass has
That one's
been around for a minute.
Our has been around for a
And the
minute. So
Fire's
Nice.
been around for forever.
Yeah.
all
The
the
Fire.
places.
Yeah, and it's more for me at least. It's just about checking each one of them off. It's like I don't care if it's
Mm-hmm.
your living room. I'll play your living room just to check it off the list. If people are there, man, like
I'll start
We've
knocking
done
up.
lots of
That's
we'll
living
do it.
rooms.
Just get us
Yeah,
some
you
bottles
played
of
in
water.
living
We'll do it.
Yeah.
I don't
How
know.
many
There were some
venues do you
very
guys
fun
think you've
shows.
done?
Oh, I don't know.
The what?
How many venues do you think we've done?
I'm gonna
I
say
think even just
Probably
since
more
I've
than
joined this
3.
band, we've
Probably
done
more
quite
than
a few.
3, less than 5.
I'm gonna say
Yeah.
30 different.
30?
places.
Yeah, I think that's an
I think
accurate.
we've done
Wow.
15
number.
just with me, like roughly in between 10 and 15.
We might, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like what do you then what are we counting? Because it's
Yeah, like,
like
are we gonna count basements and living
Yeah.
rooms?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Like,
could count that.
Okay,
Then yeah.
maybe
Count
even more.
Shirley's
35.
basement.
Riviera Street,
Hell yeah.
that's a backyard.
yeah.
Stoop, that's a street.
Yeah, we played
That's
there.
a venue.
Played
More
in
than
the
others.
People are there.
Yeah. No, sorry. I thought middle of my sentence. I'm so sorry. That has been my ever-going problem is I will answer myself in my head. It's so
I'm talking to
bad.
myself all the
Dude,
time up here, baby.
Like not to like just totally get off topic. The other day, I was sitting in class and I cracked up because I remember one of my coworkers just slipping and falling in the kitchen, and like she was fine, but it was just so funny to me. And then I'm in class and I'm
Sorry.
and I was like, "What was so funny?" And I'm like, "We're talking about abnormal psych," and I'm like, "This is awkward." Like,
Speaking of abnormal
Yeah.
sights,
Nice. Good.
but oh, dude, no, sorry about that.
How about,
So
what about Isaac and Jordan? I want to hear their
yeah, what's your
answers.
favorite venue, Jordan?
Favorite venue that we've played together. I really liked the Haven a couple weeks ago. Was actually the vibe was really fun.
That
I
was
liked
really
that.
Yeah, it was cool.
Philomoka as a band, probably favorite place.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah.
My favorite place we ever played was in St. George's Episcopal Church.
Oh, that was
I
fun.
forgot
Yeah,
about
I
that.
forgot
Yeah, that
about
was
that
good
I'm
one.
not a man of religion myself, but playing in the history of the church is that a musician was the architect for the church and designed it for acoustics. And it was a very pretty church, lots of stained glass and pretty architecture, and just a very beautiful church. And we had the great fortune, thanks to some hard work from John, to put together like a little event there with some art vendors and multiple bands, and just putting on a psychedelic rock show in the middle of an Episcopal church was definitely a once in a lifetime
That was fun.
experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was
Yo,
a lot of fun.
Twice in a lifetime.
Or
We should
playing
do
a
that again.
bakery. We've
How
done
do
that.
you
Yeah,
even-
hell yeah.
I'm sorry for cutting anyone off, but how do you even set that up?
I just
Okay.
ask.
For
him.
Just ask.
That is so cool.
Lots of
So
fun.
it's
a
like
lot of fun.
I
People
hate
love rock and roll.
I'm so jealous.
turn
I
it
was
down.
there.
I hate
Dude.
to dispel the mystery of like people like being like, how do you do that? But it's just like you just ask, and if they say no, then it's like, all right,
Ask
I'll ask.
nicely.
Sleep
Oh, you
outside
go-
the
oh,
front
yeah,
door,
ask
wait
nicely.
for them to show up.
You ask nicely and
Beg.
and professionally and like for instance, and I'll out myself. No problem. Oh, I wanted to do like a musicale style thing. This is what our buddies Up and Over do. They'll just go and they'll set up some mics and they'll record in a really cool space. And I wanted to do something like that. And I was like, well, why don't we do it in a interesting place in the city? And I was like, all right, well, I love Eastern State Penitentiary. I was like, I'll reach out to Eastern State Penitentiary. And immediately I was like, hey, this is what we do. I sent them an email. This is what we expect. Here's where we've done these things before. And then they got back to me right away, and they were like, no. And I was like, okay. I was like, cool, that's fine. And as cool as it would have been to have done that, it's like sometimes people are just going to say no, and you gotta just ask everybody.
Is there like an eye on like a venue you guys want to do? Like, is there something that you guys have just been talking about that you've been like, I've been there a million times, I've seen whoever play? Is there like a venue that you guys are like, that's the one that I really want to do?
I'd love to take down Underground Arts.
Oh, fuck
in the
yeah.
city.
Where's that?
Underground Arts is a venue in Philly. That's like a good like upper middle tier venue.
like
where
yeah,
like some
yeah.
pretty
Serious.
big bands will play there. It's not the Met, like Taylor Swift isn't gonna go play there, but like some pretty bigger acts like
think Pawn,
Viagra Boys was
yeah.
just there.
Pawn is playing there in like a couple days.
Pawn,
and,
yeah.
Or like
I'd like-
Alton Goon played there.
Like a Brooklyn Bowl too.
Yeah, that'd be
I was
dope.
there,
Yeah, yeah.
but that
And
one
then
looks
there's
really fun.
a place in New York called TVI that I really want to play.
You're
as well.
eyeing that up. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been in talks.
Yeah.
when you're allowed to
discussions.
get over there.
Yeah.
We can go that far.
So
But-
when it, oh, sorry.
No. I was just gonna filibuster. Flavor.
So when it comes to like other bands, right? I'm sure you guys you're in the circuit. You guys know other bands and people in there. Is there a sense of a camaraderie, or is there like a
Definitely.
cool?
Yeah.
There's one
no
thing
doubt.
that I've noticed is that like there's some small bands like Ursinus or whatever it is, and there's a lot of animosity between like broadcasting kids or people like across the literally across the train tracks, and so there's a lot of camaraderie then I guess in that circuit. There's not like like we're playing this venue, it's better than this venue. No. It's pretty.
We really try to stay out of any guff because we just don't. I
The
mean,
way I
it's
see
not our
it is
temperament.
like this scene, if you want to call it that, like the music scene in the city, is kind of like a living organism, and so the healthier the whole scene is, the better that we, a part of it, are going to do. So
No
the
doubt,
more
no
we
doubt.
uplift our fellow bands and work with them, that's only going to end up helping us, because the more fans that they get, sorry, John, the more fans that they
No,
get,
that's all right.
the more people that's going to come to their show. And if we're playing the same show, then those people might become fans of
Yeah.
us. And just
That's very true.
in a million different ways, it's only beneficial.
We have some of our really good friends that we like are like always, either if we're not playing with them, we're hanging out with them. So like just to rattle off a few, Slop Tart, Double Suede, Shid, Delay 77, Pachyderm, Bird Furniture, who else? Yeet, Mojo Hand, getting up
Winker and
there.
Whaler Collective.
Violent
They're becoming good
Highs.
buddies. Violent Highs, thank
Violent
you.
Highs, yes.
So like there's just
Crawlies,
Crawlies, there's just a lot of good people.
General Life.
General Life.
That's coming up.
There are all a lot of people that are just kind of like in the circle who we float between, and Eric from Double Suede, have been good friends with him for years at this point. So those are people that we want to see succeed, and those are people that we want to uplift with us, and not to like put on like a savior complex or anything stupid like that. But it's like we want just genuinely to see them do some really cool stuff too. So anytime we get to do something like that, anytime we get to do something like the Psych Expo, we're putting on, we're gonna put those bands on, and not to make it insular. We're just trying to like, we love our friends and we want to be supportive. But there's also other people that I really admire in the scene that I'm like, oh, I really want to play with them. Brothers, Air Devi, who else?
Lisa.
Lorraine.
Yes,
Yeah.
Lorraine.
I want to make sure I said that right.
Two bands that are a girl's name, but are actually full bands, Lisa and Lorraine.
Yeah. So there's a hit list of people that we want to just like hang out with and
Oh, the Outsect. Would love to play with the Outsect. They're super cool.
play with Carlia again.
Yeah, Carlia.
Yeah.
So are these like openers, or that you guys would like end up like combining the bands? Like how would you?
More of like a split bill. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
like in terms of like I feel, and I could totally, I have a very bad perspective outward because I'm just one point on the graph, but I feel like everyone's in the same boat. Like it just feels like everyone's doing the same thing, grinding it out, and there aren't too many people that are like breaking off at the moment. It feels like all the bands that we named are like still like hometown heroes.
And it's like a fallacy to think that like, oh, like we have to get rid of competition like other bands and stuff so that we can get like bigger chunks of the pie.
No,
That's like a fallacy. That's not at all how it works.
No.
It's like it's no secret that, you know, like guitar-based music and rock and roll isn't exactly charting the top 40s these days anymore. So it's like just generating excitement for the craft in general helps. And it's a multiplying effect where it's like, oh, if you start trying to put other bands down and exclude people, you're just going to end up with a smaller audience to capture. But like the more excitement there is for the whole craft of it, then the more opportunities that are going to start to bubble up. So
yeah,
wow,
it's its own ecosystem, and
that's healthy. It's really cool.
Yeah, and I just don't want to. There's no, you put shit into the machine, you get shit out. So it's like if you
yes,
I feel like if you're like fucking around like that, you're not gonna breed any good positive repercussions. They're all going to be negative.
Oh, that's awesome. That's cool, and I'm glad that like that scene is like that, because I know with anything you have rivalries, you whatever, but it's good to know that there's like a healthy, as you said, ecosystem. Mm-hmm. So and that's cool that you guys actually end up playing. I didn't know bands people do that. They like play together.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
I did not know that.
I don't think almost ever we've gotten up and it's just been like us that night. Maybe
no.
once.
That's such a financial ask of a venue to put on one band, because it's like you're really putting all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah.
And I've been trying to.
I never would have thought of that. Yeah.
I try to put myself in the
sure.
seat of the promoter, who's like, who is going on your behalf. You know, it's like there's especially when you're trying to break through from the house show circuit into like the venue circuit. He doesn't, or he or she or they don't know you from fucking Adam. So it's like you got to come to the table with something. It doesn't. I think that there's also a fallacy that it has to be strictly art. I think you have to have an artistic representation. You have to be an artist intrinsically and confident enough to get up in front of people and be like, I wrote this, I'm going to perform this. But you also have to be pragmatic enough to know that you got to color inside the lines.
There's money involved, so you have to also think like a businessman at certain business person
when
certain aspects.
Business human.
If it gets serious, it turns into a business, and you have to know that there's other people who get paid to do this for a living, and you got to do that for them. It's not really about just you; it's about everybody. So.
But it is. That just hired you. They hired you because they want you to make them money.
Yeah. And you want to make money as well. Hopefully,
you have to be able to get people to the show. So like it all starts with being a good musician and having good music, but like there's auxiliary aspects.
There are other
it.
components.
Yeah, there are other components. How good can you promote? Can you gain an audience? Can you get people to show up to the show? Are they going to be excited, or are they going to come back?
It's not really a practice I see often, but at least 10 years ago, we used to always have to sell at least 10 to 20 tickets just to guarantee a show.
Oh, geez,
Some
really?
still do that.
Yeah, a lot of places still do it because
Wow.
they think, well, if we need $500 just to run the venue and pay the couple people that are going to be here, and
because you got to make it's overhead.
It's something. So it's their guarantee to be like, okay, you don't play and we don't have a show, then we shut the doors if you guys can't sell at least 10 tickets each, because you think
or they'll make
there's
you
5
pay
members
for
in
the
the band.
difference.
Can you bring 2 people each?
So then what would happen now? I don't know if this ever happened, and I never seen it either on like at a concert or like a small venue. Like I saw the Wallows play, that was awesome, and that was in a really small venue. But when it comes to bombing, have you ever experienced that or seen that happen?
No.
Depends what you mean by bombing, because unless something actually explodes,
no,
I feel like the show has always gone on in some way.
So
do
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, And Isaac brought up a good one that I try to purge from my mind. But
try as we might.
We did a set at Khyber Pass. It was just Isaac and I, and the goal was, and I stand firm at this. So we have a cassette player that we use as sort of like as a way to start sets, create some ambiance, and we use
a backing track.
The backing track we use we use some effects on the track to be able to manipulate it and create some sort of like beacon, like, hey, we're starting, like this is what we're doing. And one of the permutations of wanting to use that tool was like, well, we can perform an acoustic set and we can just have that playing through the background. And if you look at it from a harmonic analysis perspective, if you are in a key and you just use a root as the backing track with supplemental noise that is atonal, maybe, no, in key.
Jordan's like, I wasn't listening.
Jordan's like, she's like, shut up, man. You know what I'm talking about. If you use that, you can create an atmosphere that's a little bit more 3D. So it's like you could have, maybe it's like a synth pad under something. So that was the idea. And I think we can still execute that idea. But Isaac and I, it was the first time that we were doing it, and we were a little bit too ambitious, and we recorded something to a tape, and we were performing a set that was all in D. You were on electric guitar and I was on acoustic, and we missed cues. We missed, like, there was sound came in and out.
There was technical difficulties.
There were technical difficulties. And we're just standing up there, and I'm like, that's like one of my bigger fears is like getting up and like, and I was singing. You weren't there that night, so I sang all the songs, which like also that's not my go-to. And we were up there and we're like, will this fucking set ever fucking end?
It was pretty
Yeah. But
excruciating.
yeah, but then
Okay, so that
I also came in a full suit.
Nice.
I was in a full
We
fucking
were both
beige
wearing
suit.
suits. I was wearing like a degenerate suit.
You had like a DIY suit on, and
I
you were
had
like,
pretty much just the jacket and the button up, and then like regular pants.
I came in fucking wingtips and a tie, like I was like
Yeah.
looked like such a nerd, and you know it's like,
awesome. That's
but
so
like,
cool.
well, like we were done with it, and then
Yeah.
and the idea to me is still sound. Like I think that we can execute that idea if it's not as ambitious, but
Yeah, we were
yeah,
trying to like.
warts and
we
all,
had,
we bomb.
We tried to have the tape set up with like cues so that it would like change with the song, and we were like, oh, we'll just play to it because we were practicing in my basement, and we had it playing through a speaker, like
Right in front of
a
your
foot
face.
away from
Yeah.
our faces, and we're right next to each other.
And that's
playing.
that place in Westchester, right? Was that not yours?
Khyber Pass is in Philly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And so we were practicing in my basement, and everything's like a foot away from each other. So we, the tape is blasting in our ear. Me and John are looking right at each other. We're like, oh, we can
got
do this.
this.
We get to the venue, and we start playing the tape through the house system, and we can't
Hear a
it
fucking
for
thing.
shit.
Oh no.
Can't
And
hear a
we were
thing.
like, oh. So we got lost. We got
Well,
soupy.
And which created, it did create it created something, and I think that maybe people that were there, and I remember
Thank God nobody knew what it was we were trying to do, so they assumed that the sounds we made were what we were
like, oh, you
trying
guys
to
are
do.
sucking on purpose. You guys,
And they were like,
yeah,
"Oh, they're
bad.
going for like a really soupy, spacey thing."
Super
Because I
avant-garde.
had
Yeah,
some
yeah,
friends
yeah.
there, and I talked to them after it, and they were like, "Wow, that was like so different and like spacey. That was cool." And I was like, "It wasn't."
Was it?
That
That's a good way of
Yeah,
saying
yeah,
it.
And I was like,
Was
"Yeah,
it?
you got it, dog, for sure."
Yeah, thank you, random
Oh,
citizen.
Thanks for being nice.
Dude.
I did. I
It was-
left immediately after the set. I was.
And I had
ashamed.
to stay. We were like the second one on, and then I had to stay for the rest of the night to just get paid.
My
Like,
brother gave me a ride that night, so that was my excuse to leave. I was like, "Oh, Jeremy's got work. We gotta go."
People would come up to me and be like, "Wow, that was like you guys really did something." And I'm like, "Yeah, we got up there and we played music, all right. Yeah. I don't know what it was. Yeah,
I
did
would
something."
be terrified. So okay, so you said that it can work. Would you do it again?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
No,
Yeah,
and that's the
absolutely.
thing. It's like the idea works.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate thing is that I don't know if you feel this way, but I'm just stupid enough to like do that again and be like, okay, well,
what
we
about
said-
like an earpiece in the ear?
Well, I was gonna say
Yeah, that's
actually
sort
my
of the next
story
step.
comes from the exact same thing. Is that my first band had? Yeah, actually it's empty now. Thank you. Is that my first band had all in-ear like rigs, so we had to actually like have cues. I had to run a mixer with my in-ears so that I had all the cues worked out. No one else had any kind of wireless rig or anything. So as I'm doing that, the very first show we ever played, I had been using Vic Firth, drum headphones that were pretty fine. I ended up not bringing those, so I put in like iPod headphones. And the gain on the actual mixer completely distorted everything to where I could hear no music, no signal. And I didn't know that until we, start playing. So as the music kicks in, there's bass drops happening and these crazy digital effects and piano lines and stuff going across. And it's all, prog rock metal music. So it's got to be pretty tight. And it ends up like I'm playing stuff and shit's happening and people are looking at me like, what are you doing, dude? And I'm just like, I can't hear anything. I can't do anything. So we're just going to go through this.
We're going to get through it. Yeah.
So,
you couldn't change the mixer in real time? Like,
the signal from the actual computer was just way too high from whatever he had in the actual programming. So it was running, I think, from like there to the mixer, and then the mixer's gain was just crushing it once I actually put in iPod headphones that couldn't handle the bass frequencies. So it was pretty much if there was no bass happening, but because they had bass in the entire thing as a metal band, like bass drops happening every like 5 seconds, it was one of those things where I could not hear other than like, okay, I know where I am. Up there it goes, it's gone. And then kind of hope that I'm on cue and turn up the mixer or whatever on the side, the monitor. But same thing. So these guys now, with all of our experience, if they were to want to do an in-ear rig, we could do it much more efficiently.
That is
you live and you learn.
That's the game. Like it's like I'm sure if you are an artist and you've done it a couple of times, that you're gonna like. It's such a network
happen.
Television fallacy to think that you can do everything and it's gonna be perfect every time. Like if you guard yourself from that, or you get too bent out of shape about messing something up, then you're not going to learn from it. So.
Yeah, and you got to know that you've now set your bar really low, so you can only go up from there.
Oh
That's
yeah,
the good part.
Yeah. Well, see,
look at the bottom of the barrel,
like,
baby.
This sucks,
I
so
was
we can only get
sweating at the
better.
beginning of this because I thought I messed up everything. I was like literally sweating. I was like losing it in my mind. Cause I'm trying to like talk, but I'm looking at my computer. Right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Speaking of like messing things up and these only because like I know I've just been doing it for like a year. Like I know how this all works. Of course, the one time. The people that I really want to have on and do a really good job. I'm literally sweating in the beginning of this, and I'm freaking out because I'm like, I know that's working, but I'm like,
but is it?
This is not because I've used this mix amp maybe 5 times.
It's going great. I mean, it's great on this end. Loving it.
Dude, I was freaking out. It wasn't working. I had to switch programs. I'm like, this is great.
Dude, I feel like that is. I genuinely feel like there's a little bit of risk tolerance that you have to build up when you're doing these sorts of productions, and it's like there's a strong. Oh man, actually, if we're talking about like war stories, we did a set last year at Oh So Sweet Bakery, and it was like one of the hottest days.
Shouts out Oh So Sweet Bakery
go to Oh
in
So Sweet
Chadsford if you're
It's
in the area.
fantastic.
Go get some scones.
Delicious food.
Yeah, Oh So
Change your
Sweet
life.
Bakery, Chadsford. Brought to you in part by. And it was like the hottest day of the year, and we were getting cooked. Like I had sunburn immediately, and I was running a tube amp, and it just wouldn't turn on, and I was just like, okay, well now what do we do? And I think Jordan had the idea. You're like, put it through the PA, just like put the thing through the PA, and I was like, okay, and then we did that, and then I had to like get the amp in the shade. And it's just like sometimes equipment just doesn't work. Sometimes you go to pick up the one tool you need to put a piece of crown molding in, and you're standing on a ladder, and you go to fire off the pin nailer, and it just doesn't go. And you're like, "What's happening?" I'm holding a piece of trim. I have to like get down. I have to readjust. So like sometimes things will just not work when they should. And
As an owner of many secondhand pedals, I can agree.
Dude.
Hey man,
wait a second. It is wild. It is one thing that I never realized I would run into. It's good that other people have that issue because
everybody.
Yeah.
Technology's amazing, isn't
dude,
it?
The motherfucker is what it is.
I don't know if you ever like looked, but like the other podcast, Stuttering in Silence, everything audio was great. Then all of a sudden, I got a text from my buddy over at Temple, and. Oh, no, Penn State, Ronan Bell. And he liked the Ronan Bell show. He goes, hey, man, I was listening to your thing. You have a lot of background noise. I'm like, what? And it's this zzz in the background. Ruins the whole thing. But the problem was we didn't notice it because I couldn't hear it on the interface.
Sure.
And I couldn't hear it in edit. So when it would go up on Spotify, that's when it would show up.
When it popped.
So
Yeah.
people were like, dude,
What the fuck?
you got to fix this. Can never.
And it's like, and then you do, and you fix
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
This is literally happening
Exactly.
right now. There's
Yeah.
pink noise all throughout this. This is what's happening.
the
I'm not gonna
practice.
cast that voodoo.
Oh,
It's the importance of practice.
Yeah.
dude, it's wild,
what
and
it
it's like everything works great, and then it's just doesn't.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
Things happen.
that's the gamble. I don't know.
Jordan, you got any good war stories from your wedding gigs?
Oh my gosh.
Goodness gracious.
Jordan also
Of just,
sings
like,
in a wedding
stick-ups.
band.
bombing and things like
So
that.
far down.
Yeah, I've
Maid
had.
of honor later out.
I
too.
was called a train wreck once.
Wow.
Sorry for the train wreck, everybody.
Wow.
There's
no-
man.
I know
least
the
they're
song
honest, but
Valerie
wow.
Amy Winehouse like the back of my hand. And this saxophone player wanted to take an extra like 8 measures of a solo, but I was ready to come in. Usually I was used to people following the singer. This is like a ditzy singer thing, but most of the time musicians follow the singers because, you know,
We
they
do.
can be unpredictable. This band did not. So I stopped. I stopped myself in the middle because I realized he wasn't stopping. I'll stop. And they were like, if you sing and you stop, you keep going, and all this stuff. And they said, we cannot have this. That was a train wreck.
Oh my gosh.
And I was
Jordan
so
didn't sleep for
nervous
3
because,
days.
like, that's somebody's wedding. And I was just like, okay, sorry. And I don't even think I did that bad. I think they weren't watching.
Do you think the couple's still together?
They probably got
That's the important
divorced.
question.
Yeah.
I was watching this. Oh my
they
God,
seem
that's
like a
ruined
good
their
couple.
whole wedding.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Honey, we found her.
I mean,
Honey, come look at this podcast. We found her.
She put this into
We
motion.
found the wedding singer.
she's the one that ruined our wedding.
Her name's Jordan. Her name's Jordan Schreiber.
Don't say it. Don't say it. Yeah, no, I was a little hurt by that one. But bombing, and then
Wow.
there's been plenty of weddings where like the monitors facing me just weren't turned on, and so it's
I love
just like,
when you look
Great.
at me and you're like, and I'm like, yeah, you can't
well,
hear
yeah, that's my
anything.
usual face. Like you'll know, I'm just like,
Jordan will let you know. Jordan's like, I can't hear
I
anything.
cannot hear.
Can we get some more in the monies, please?
Well, it's
More
very
in the
common
monies?
with singers. They turn down the like anything around me first because mics feedback. They're so touchy. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
just a lot of times I'm playing ear blind. I like to call it because I can't.
it's
hear.
not good.
blind, man.
All right, guys, we just hit an hour
hear.
and 16 minutes.
Wow,
An hour
Yeah,
60.
yeah, hour and
cannoli.
16.
that was a long,
Yeah,
nice.
a
so
long time.
So guys, listen, this was probably and I'm not just saying this. This is probably one of the most fun podcasts I've done so far.
Thank
Oh,
you.
So
thanks,
this
man.
no, like,
This is
like
a lot
I
of
know,
fun. Yeah,
I
this is a
know,
lot of fun.
seriously,
Same
this
here.
was
Same here for
actually a
us,
lot
man.
of fun. I'm glad everything went. I'm good and everything. My freak out was fine once I like about a minute in. But yeah, guys. So why don't you read off where you're gonna be next? You know that going.
So we have a couple shows coming up. We have 12-9 Dobbs on South.
12-9 Dobbs on South.
Dobbs on South.
Graphics.
1-7 will be at Silk City.
January 7th, Silk City.
1-13 will be at Ortlieb's. You're not saying that again?
January 13th, we'll be at Ortlieb's.
Okay. February 3rd, we're at Ortlieb's.
February 3rd, we're at Ortlieb's.
So we got a double thing. They might catch us for that and screw us, but that's
we'll
okay.
see.
We'll see.
Maybe they
Too
won't
bad.
notice.
Maybe they'll notice. And then the big one is 210, the Psych Expo. That is a tentative date, so we might post-edit this. I don't know.
TBD.
We'll let you
Final-
know.
Keep it in your
Final date
calendar.
to be decided.
Just follow us on the Instagram. We'll let you know.
Give us a follow at
At the-
_Polychromatics to keep up to date on all your Polychromatics information.
If you Google that.
Music video coming soon.
Music video coming soon.
New releases.
Yeah, we
new
have a double
things.
single. There's a music video out now for our cover of White Rabbit.
It's only on
and
YouTube, not Spotify yet.
It's only on YouTube right now. The song's coming out on Spotify with another song, an original, Emily If She Be There. And the music video is coming out for that as well the same day that releases.
And then we have
Awesome.
probably the next release after that is something we've been working on with Noah from Shid, which is called In Leo. And that'll be out whenever. And some other stuff in the pipeline. Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, seriously, thank you, guys. Make sure to check out all their stuff. I'm gonna put everything that they say in real time. You probably used to seeing my YouTube videos. It'll all pop up like that. I just snapped into a microphone, which probably was not my brightest idea. But dude, it's so bad. That is the one thing. That is the one thing I will edit out. Is when I'll do that.
There it is.
Again.
You know what else is really bad? Now to keep this going, but when I'll say some sus shit, I'm like, yeah, dude, just put it inside. Pause.
Well, we'll just snip that.
Yeah, yeah. So and I make fun of
snip
myself all the
that.
time, so you guys will see all those edits. But guys, thank you so much.
Thanks, man.
This was
Thank you
awesome.
very
you.
much.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun.
A lot of fun, for sure.